Now that you have your wheel removed, you're going to remove your valve cap. BMW uses a special metal valve cap with a rubber O-ring in it. You guys, independent guys, do the customer a favor. Give them back their fucking valve cap. These freaking black plastic ones are shitty looking. Remove your core. We're not going to save that core because it is of no use to us. We are going to change the tire valve anyway. Into your bead breaker. First air. You're going to break the bead. Two to three times on each side. You're going to take your rim. I suggest you put the rim on your tire machine disc down to prevent any damage. Lock that into place. Now we'll put this camera in a different position so you can have a better idea of what goes on here. This is very, very simple. With our wheel locked in place, you also want to remember, almost all these BMWs have a metal shim between the wheel and the rear drive. Don't lose that. With our wheel locked in place in the machine, we have a solution of a few drops of dishwashing soap and the rest water. Put it in a spray bottle. This is a recycled grease lightning bottle. Use whatever. I stopped buying new ones years ago because they fucking crap out within a few weeks. Surprisingly, recycled ones last for years. It's kind of goofy. You're gonna take your tire machine, you're gonna come over here, you're gonna drop the arm, you're gonna lock it, you're gonna grab your tire iron. If you are worried about dinging the rim, use a plastic shim or a piece of leather. That will prevent the tire iron from marking the rim. Here we are, tire iron laying on top of the plastic. Turn the fucking power on, Harris. Give it a little turn, and now we can walk our tire iron out without being under pressure under the tire itself. Again, we'll do the same for this. This bike is very, very clean. No reason to have any dings in the rim. Around we go again. Remove the tire iron. We are now done with this. Put that fucker away. We're done with this as well. Our tire is off. If you're new to this and or better yet, if you get a set of wheels brought to you and you don't know what the fuck they're off of or which side the drive is on or the disc is on, pay attention to how it's mounted. Because at least if you end up with it backwards, you can tell the customer, I reinstalled the new tire the same way that the old one was. Then you know, you're kind of not as guilty. You should still know what the hell you're working on. This tire is out of here. We have two nice new Metzlers going on this bike. Before we put this new tire on, you're going to rotate your table. You're after that valve. Take a pair of side cutters. You want to cut the bottom of this valve right off. Then you can peel the valve itself out of there. Always, 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 always replace the fucking valve. Here is the valve from my Dodge truck. You'll notice it comes apart. While my truck was sitting in the driveway one day, I heard air escaping. Thought something got a flat. It did. The freaking valve separated. I jacked the truck up, I replaced the valve. Half an hour later, I heard the other one pop, go sailing across the yard and ding off the front of the shop. That was this one. Change the freaking valves every time you change the tires. These little valves, 1.94 inch long, are very inexpensive. Now we use tire paste. So you want to get plenty on your brush. You're going to go all the way around the rim. Here, there, and the middle. You want to coat the entire inside of the rim. You're also going to run your new valve over the brush. The brush away for now. This is a tool for installing valves. They're not expensive. You can get it at any auto parts store. Any auto parts store worth a fuck should have them, or at least be able to order them for you. Now, I'm going to take our tire. Remember which direction it goes. We're going to coat the bead here, here, and inside on both sides with the tire paste. We see here our direction of rotation is correct. However, we have no red dot on that side. Most tire manufacturers will only put the mark on one side of the tire. So, since I installed mostly Metzlers here and Heidenau's, both of which use red, this be a German thing, we're going to identify our two red marks that are here, and we're going to transfer them to here, but I put them here on the tread side. There and there. Good enough. That red mark goes by the tire valve. That is the heavier part of the tire. The lightest part of the rim is the hole where the valve is drilled. So they need to mate up, otherwise you end up adding more weight. Weights aren't cheap. Wheel weights from freaking BMW are over $5 a piece for a stinking little weight. And anyway, you don't want to go there. Put the tire on properly. Give this a turn. First side will drop in easily. Push the other side in. You want to get the red dots a little advanced ahead of the valve. Have to lean into this a little bit. You're going to push the tire down into the valley of the rim. Here you go. And even though I advanced it a bit, I'm still a little behind. So we're going to rotate the tire. We are now lined up properly. Our next step, take your air hose with your tire chuck and inflate the tire. Try not to look at it this way. You want to keep your head up here. When the tire seats, when the bead seats, it may spew some of the tire paste out. And you don't want that crap in your eye. Not that it's going to freaking do anything, but like comes a surprise. It's going to be loud. Most of the time you get two very loud bangs. Sometimes the tires slide right on nice and smooth. They don't do much more than a little pop. There we go. Generally don't need much pressure to get them to seat. If you are getting into the area of 60 pounds to 70 pounds or more, stop. Break the freaking tire down again. Lubricate everything like I just showed you. If you need that much air to get it seated, you don't have enough lubricant. We have 40 pounds. We are going to 44. Despite what the BMW manual says, you need to run these tires at 44 in the rear and 42 in the front. That will yield you 11 to 14,000 miles out of a set of Z6 Road Techs from Metzler. If you run them at BMW's recommended pressures, you're going to be changing your tires every 6,000 to 7,000 miles. So this part's done. We are going to reinstall our metal BMW cap, and then we'll move on to wheel balancing. This too is a simple job, depending on your wheel balancer, depends on what method you use. We have a special adapter for these BMW wheels. You do not need to bolt that on, at least with this machine. We're going to slide it onto the shaft, add a cone, add a multitude of spacers so that we get closer to the threaded portion of the shaft and the wheel balancer. Save some time so we don't have to thread this thing on all the way. Drop our pins. Now we'll put in our dimensions. 21.6, 17-inch wheel. It is 5 inches wide. We're going to look at the rim. We're looking for hopping of the tire or a bend side to side. We don't have that here. So we are calling for ½ an ounce, almost completely opposite of where the weights are now. I do not remove the weights before I initially balance the wheel. Reason being is sometimes it's the rim itself that's out of balance. And you'll find that you remove the weights, you spin the wheel, you need weight in the same spot. So that's kind of a waste of wheel weights. As I said, these things are getting expensive. You can no longer get lead. There are only freaking tin ones available now, and they don't stick for shit, and they're bigger, which is creating some problems. Because the tin weighs less per size than lead, so they had to go to a bigger wheel weight. We use a plastic scraper to remove the weights. You also need to clean the fucking glue residue off the rim. It is pretty disgusting to see some bikes come in here for the first time in my shop for, you know, let's say a 10, 15-year-old bike that's had 10 or 15 sets of tires on it or more, and nobody's fucking cleaned the freaking glue off the wheels from previous wheel weight applications. Should do your customer a favor, remove the residue. There's no reason not to. Now we are calling for 3/4 of an ounce here. Which is not too far from where we just removed the weights, but we just took an ounce off. Back up there. So, we get rid of the gloves. 3/4 of an ounce is going to be 3 pieces of this. As I said, these, they don't stick very good. Where the wheel weights are going to be applied, you want to wipe the rim off and make sure it's dust free and make sure there's no residue from former wheel weights. I'm going to stick it right on the top. 12 o'clock position on the wheel is indicated by the arrows going away on the balancer. Make sure these fit. If you need to spin that down, and I'll show you right here, this is the problem with these weights. If this will focus. You see the gap right here? These don't fit across. The rim's very good. That hangs off the side. So we're gonna have to do them in line like this one to get them to work. So while I have 2 going on one side, I've cut it into individual pieces because they're narrower in that direction. One here. Butt the other one up right against it. Press them on well and give it another spin. If you are worried about the wheel weights coming off while you're running the bike, you can certainly run a piece of duct tape across the rim, same as they do on race bikes. That will help the wheel weights stay on. As I said, these new wheel weights, these tin wheel weights suck. The adhesive is not the same, and they're a larger mass, which makes it even worse to keep them on the rim. And that is how you mount and computer balance your new tire. One final thing you absolutely have to do before you test ride this bike or hand it back to the customer. Since you've had the brake calipers off and the pads spread apart, you need to pump the brakes up before you ride it. So on this bike, where it has Evo brakes, servo equipped, you turn the key on, activate the front brakes until you see that you're getting adequate braking action. Same with the rear. Pump the pedal. Make sure that it's working. For a non-servo equipped bike, you would just pump the brakes until you feel it in the lever. It is critical. The last thing you want to do is test ride this with no brakes or send the customer out. You know, it takes several pumps before the pads make contact with the disc again. So pump them up, be safe. Thank you. I'd like to point out that if your wheel is bent or damaged, or even if there's a section missing out of it, usually they can be repaired. BMW says they cannot. Bullshit. I've had wheels repaired numerous times. If you're on the West Coast, I'd strongly suggest you ship it to Woody's Wheel Works in Denver, Colorado. If you're on the East Coast, ship it to the guys at MC Wheel in Swansea, New Hampshire, just south of Keene. Very, very affordable, very good work. And if you look up the prices of BMWs, of replacement wheels from BMW, how much you think a new rim cost without brake discs and tire? $500? Nah. $700? Nah. $800? Not quite. $900 fucking dollars. Our schlock's gonna have a fucking heart attack. Our BMW greedy pig. Fuck BMW. Get your wheels straightened and fixed. There is no reason to buy freaking new ones. That is just an outrageous amount of money for a very soft wheel. These do not bend quite as easily as the old 3-spoke wheels did, but still, they're repairable. If you have damage to them, get them fixed. Save yourself a ton of money. And if you don't trust having them fixed, feel free, contact Beamer Boneyard and buy a used set.